Now, most of your career has been recorded in the English language. Well, you know what? Before we get to that, I wanted to talk about your love for the U.S. You mentioned that you came over here with the Danish Lions, and they left without you. They went back, and you stayed. You were like, "Nah, I'm good. I like it here." What was that decision? Was that spur of the moment, or like was that thought of beforehand?
There was never an option of going home or going back. It's as simple as that. Once that Viking ship had, docked in New York City Harbor, man, it was, you know, it's regardless of what would happen in the long run. But no, man, no, I wasn't coming to America. I was escaping Denmark.
Right. And so that shaped that one decision completely turned your entire life on its ear. And so any regrets, I imagine there's not a single regret about that, right?
No, and there's not a single regret there because one thing led to another. I have almost never met, I know there is someone, but I've never met anyone like me that would basically sacrifice everything in their life for living the rock and roll life. And when I'm saying the living the rock and roll life, that's not hanging out at the Rainbow Bar and Grill on Sunset Strip. It's not driving in a limousine or walking around with mirrored sunglasses, but it's been in the world of rock and roll where sort of the language and things make sense to you. I mean, the total opposite of a Congress hearing with a CIA director. I mean, that's sort of what I want. I mean, to tell you the truth, when I got into my first band, and back in those days, we had our own truck and we had our own PA system. Man, I was more interested in being a roadie.
Wow.
I just took a liking to that, which means basically today there is nothing that I don't know about what it takes to put a show together, what to raise a stage, to fly a PA system, to connect it to whatever it is, because that's what we were doing in the rawest form. And I know I'm jumping all over the place, but when we toured with AC/DC, I would get up early, and the tour bus would arrive early in the morning outside the arena. I'd get up there and I see them fly the PA, hang the lights, and I would sit at the soundboard and ask questions. Dude, I just had an interest in wanting to know what it all took. So
Just
it's been nice to follow how that all evolved and technology became so and so and so, from the cassette tape to, the digital format.
so just trying to be a sponge, as a young guy.
Look up, what? Yeah, I mean, the funniest thing about that, because we had been living in Spain for a few years before we came to the U.S.
Right.
And once I said in my, sort of like in my mind that we were going to the U.S., I would tackle Americans that I heard anywhere that were in the streets or anywhere, and drain them from knowledge, because my plan was that I was starting, there was something called American Forces Network, because in Madrid there was an
Yep.
American Air Force base. So they had an American radio station and an American TV station. And, I was glued to that. So I told myself, I started watching the Johnny Carson show and all those kind of things, and seeing how when guests and stuff that came on. And I always thought to myself, one time I'm going to sit in that couch. And I don't want to be the one from Sweden. They always call people from Denmark from Sweden and stuff
Right.
like that.
Yep.
I wanted to be someone that could sit and talk to anybody. So I just drained everybody from knowledge. So when I arrived in America, I knew everything. I lived in New York for 7 years. I've never been to the Empire State Building. I've never been to Statue of Liberty. Never been in the World Trade Center. I was a New Yorker. They were just part of the city that I lived in. I've never been to an American tourist attraction.
So you were soaking things up prior to social media, the old fashioned hard way, just by word of mouth. That's awesome. So you
Yeah,
must
there's
love
an
social
American.
media
Yeah,
then.
I mean, there's an elderly American man that became my friend. I was living in my building. I started going to church with him. it didn't matter. It's just it was a pleasure for me. And then I started reading books and stuff like the first English book that I read was A Stand by Stephen King.
Nice.
And shortly after that, as strange things happened, I started dreaming English.
Wow. That's got to be
So
different.
I knew I was ready.
Yeah.